All right, let's kick things off. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending the third installment of our Retail Beat webinar series. My name is Francesca Gaiden, and I'm the VP of Enterprise Sales here at Quadpay. In this capacity, I've had the opportunity to speak to retailers almost on a daily basis, and I've been listening firsthand to the challenges we're all seeing as a result of COVID-19. So today, I'm pleased to be able to share some of our findings on how consumer behavior is shifting this upcoming holiday season, and more importantly, how retailers can leverage these trends to boost their sales. Now, before we kick off, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. So all attendees will be muted to avoid any background noise during the webinar. And two, we want to make this an interactive conversation. So please submit questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we'll get to it at the end of the webinar. For today's agenda, we'll start by going over the results of our 2020 Consumer Holiday Survey, followed by a fireside chat featuring Rob Owens from Bumpboxx and Tom Sharkey from Simplistic, where we will discuss what trends they're seeing in the market, and we'll close our segment with a Q&A session. Before we get started, I'd like to briefly explain what Quadpay is for those that aren't familiar with who we are. We are a buy now, pay later installment payments platform that enables consumers to divide a purchase into 4 interest-free installments over a 6-week period. Our mission is to empower the consumer with simple, transparent, and financially responsible payment tools that they can use anywhere. Now, unlike traditional lending products, we don't require an SSN as part of account opening, nor do we ever impact a customer's credit rating, even in the event of a default. And although we only collect 25% of the total purchase price from the consumer at the time of purchase, we do remit the full value of the transaction to the retailer immediately, and we absorb all payback liability and fraud-related losses. We found that buy now, pay later has a profound impact on consumer behavior. And with that, let's start with what we found during our 2020 Consumer Holiday Survey. We conducted this survey to investigate how Americans plan to celebrate the holidays differently amidst COVID-19 and what retailers can expect from consumers this holiday season. To do so, we spoke to 1,600 American consumers via a 10-minute online survey. Of those surveyed, 181 were Quadpay customers, and we conducted our analysis in late October. Now, although this was not that long ago, the landscape has certainly changed since with the rise of COVID cases nationwide, and we'll discuss that in greater depth during our fireside chat session. So how are Americans planning to celebrate this year? Unsurprisingly, we found that most Americans are planning to be more conservative in their celebrations, with 28% saying that they don't plan to attend any type of holiday gathering versus about 13% in previous years. And in fact, most Americans are planning to stay local, with 60% saying that they're going to stay in their own city or town versus 41% in previous years. So now that we know that American consumers are planning to spend less on travel this year, what are they going to do with that money instead? And before we share our results, I just want to hear from you guys to see what you think consumers are going to do. So you'll see now a poll pop up and you'll be able to respond. So are consumers planning to use it for later travel? Are they planning to purchase gifts for their friends and family? Or are they planning to put it into savings? We'll give you guys just a few seconds here to respond. Okay, give it a couple more seconds. Thank you for your participation. We always like to keep you guys engaged. Great. So the majority of respondents said that they think folks are going to spend it towards gifts for friends and family. And while that's a good guess, it's kind of a trick question because it's actually all of the above. So we found that 23% plan to actually put that money toward future travel when restrictions are lifted, which I think I can empathize with. I think we're all kind of getting that cabin fever and wanting to travel to see our friends and family. But interestingly, another 18% actually said that they don't want to spend that they want to put that towards savings and investments. So really there's this general attitude of being more conservative and being smarter about the way that they spend their money. So consumers overall are wanting to be more thoughtful about their spending amidst COVID-19. And unsurprisingly, if you go to the next slide. Oh, sorry. Nope, next slide. Unsurprisingly, 44% of Americans said they plan to spend less on gifts this year. But interestingly, 30% of Quadpay customers actually said the opposite, that they plan to spend more on holiday shopping this year, which is actually in line with what we typically see with our buy now, pay later retailers, where we see a double-digit lift in average order values versus those non-Quadpay transactions. On the next slide, please. So our survey also found that buy now, pay later services are generally anticipated to have the highest growth amongst consumers, with 21% of respondents saying that they plan to use it this holiday season. And to the left here, you'll see why they plan to do so. So you'll see that convenience is top of the pile, but not closely behind that. They're also looking to be able to avoid credit card fees. And they like the ability to pay in installments without having to pay those APR fees that traditional lending products often come with. So now that we know that there are still plans for consumers to spend this holiday season, what are they going to spend that on? And of those that we spoke to, the number one item that they plan to spend money on are gift cards, followed closely by technology and electronics, and third by toys. So I was kind of surprised to see that gift cards came top of the list. But again, I think our overarching theme this year is that consumers are wanting convenience in their day-to-day spending. Interestingly, and this is where we start to see the differences in how buy now, pay later consumers behave versus traditional users, the Quadpay users responded that they plan to use buy now, pay later to purchase sports equipment, which also is a shock since buy now, pay later traditionally skews heavily toward fashion and beauty. On to the next slide, please. Like previous years, consumers are still planning to shop during Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And not surprisingly, because of COVID-19, a majority of consumers are planning to do so online. However, and this was surprising to me, a good portion are still planning to go in store, with 36% saying that they plan to do so. So I know that both Rob and Tom have additional insights on this, which we'll certainly cover once we go to our fireside chat. So to round out this session, a few key takeaways from our survey. Just on the whole, Americans are celebrating the holidays more conservatively. They're traveling less, they're gathering less, they're spending less. However, what we found is that users of Quadpay or Buy Now Pay Later in general do plan to spend more than non-Quadpay users. So something to think about if you are not currently offering a Buy Now Pay Later service. Additionally, some of the things that we've known have remained intact. So consumers are still planning to go out in droves during Black Friday and Cyber Monday. All right. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to our panelists. So today joining me is Tom Sharkey, who's a Director of Insights and Optimization at Simplistic. Tom, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Francesca. Hi, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to join the webinar today, and really excited to get into some of the survey results and chat a little bit more about what's happening this holiday season. So as Francesca mentioned, I'm the Director of Insights and Optimization at Simplistic. Simplistic is an e-commerce consulting agency. Essentially, we've got teams of designers, developers. I head up our optimization team, and we're really focused on helping our clients build and grow their online businesses. So, whether you're a small, medium-sized business and you want to, bring your presence online because you're traditionally brick and mortar, or, you're a mid to large size company and you want to figure out, how to grow your e-commerce business and increase conversion, Simplistic really, that's our expertise, is focusing right there on e-commerce. And we're working very focused on the Shopify platform as well. So it's a little bit about me. I'm sure I'll get to share, some more insights from what we've seen, but that's kind of the high level intro.
Thanks, Tom. And also joining me is Rob Owens, the founder and CEO of Bumpboxx. Rob, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Rob Owens. I am the founder and CEO of Bumpboxx, which is an audio startup company based out of California, the Bay Area. And we're about 4 years new, and we're growing daily. And looking forward to everything that this panel, brings, and our webinar. I'd like to say, we are probably 85% direct to consumer, with about 15% being dealers across the country and retail establishments. So we see things from both sides. And so we might have some good insight for this webinar.
Great, thank you both. I am excited to kick this off. So I'd actually like to start to hear your thoughts about our holiday survey. Was that in line with what you guys are seeing from the trends in your space, or was any of it surprising? Rob, I'd start with you.
I would say it's pretty in line. One thing that still shocks me is that the percentage of people that said they were still going to go out and do Black Friday Black Friday shopping. I thought that would be a lot smaller number. We're seeing a huge pickup in shoppers, especially new shoppers, because of COVID-19. For instance, my mother and father, they never would shop online, but now they're Amazon pros. Over the past 7-8 months, they become pros with online shopping. So I think we're seeing a tremendous upswing in new shoppers that are now in the e-commerce trends like everybody else.
Yeah, and I know that Bumpboxx recently opened up your first retail location, and I know you guys are planning to open up a lot more retail locations in the next few months. Would you like to just share a little bit more insight about what kind of motivated you guys to do that?
Yeah, we were actually going to wait until COVID was contained a little bit and things were a lot smoother, but the real estate is cheap right now. There's so many empty
Mm,
stores. For instance, in our flagship store, that mall uh, probably had 30% vacancy. They
wow.
lost a lot of stores. So, I mean, when you can go into a mall and get in for $1 a square foot, it's like unheard of times. So we figured to jump in early and see if that pays off in the end by, signing a longer lease at a lesser rate. So it's,
Yeah.
it's so far, it's been so good. But we are near the holiday season. So it'll be interesting to see what happens after, January 15th.
Yeah, that's a very interesting takeaway, Rob. We were joking today with our team that maybe we should rent a space in the mall because it might be cheaper than New York rent. So thank you for that insight.
Yeah, for sure.
Tom, I'd like to turn it over to you. Anything about our results today that was surprising or in line with what you were seeing from the space?
Yeah, I agree with Rob. I think the most surprising thing that I saw in the data was the percentage of people who are planning to shop in store for Black Friday. I do think, as you noted, Francesca, the survey is very recent. I mean, it was out in the field in late October, which is, a few weeks ago. I think it really speaks to, it's the biggest cliche, but really how unprecedented everything this year has been, where typically consumer research studies, if it's 3 weeks old, that's very fresh. And now what's happened in the past couple of weeks with the way that cases are trending, that I was surprised to see that number being so high. I think that if a survey were to be run now, it might be a little bit lower. But what was also really interesting to me that didn't surprise me as much, but it was great to see validated was the over indexing for Quadpay users who are going to be shopping more, whether that is doing kind of omni-channel, buying online and picking up in store curbside, or just there was another stat in there too, just in general, while folks are being a little bit tighter with their wallets this year, Quadpay users are actually over indexing for wanting to, spend a little bit more than usual. And I think the number was 30% are actually planning to spend more. So what we've seen a lot, of course, working solely focusing on e-commerce, which I think it's so great, having the discussion with Rob too, getting that, that point of view, just kind of hearing about the real estate aspect of it. It's super interesting where, the world we're in. One thing that's been interesting for me to learn, in recent months is buy now, pay later it's not necessarily a new thing for our clients. They, maybe in the past year or two, I don't know, maybe we just have like a lot of cutting edge clients, but we've seen pretty much all of our clients, really do embrace buy now, pay later. And what we do see with our clients is, it empowers consumers to maybe make purchases that they might not otherwise be able to make if, they don't want to put all that charge on their credit card all at once. So even just doing some informal kind of focus group type things that, I did hear from people who said, I'm actually more likely to buy, and I do my holiday shopping, and I do use buy now, pay later because, I don't want to put all this money on my credit card bill up front, but if I can, bundle it together and pay in installments, that does allow me to shop more. So I think that's really great to see. The same thing with Quadpay users specifically in the survey.
Yeah, absolutely. I found that very surprising too. And Rob, I know that you recently launched Quadpay and you've been working with buy now, pay later providers. So I'd love to hear your take about what impact that's had on your business.
Well, what's kind of interesting is in the beginning, when we first came online as an e-commerce company, we went the first 6 months without any buy now, pay later. So it was for us, all that data going forward, when we had to be a buy now, pay later provider, like we saw a huge increase. I want to say 200 to 300% for
Wow.
us, versus not having it at all. I think it took on a tremendous area of need, for the consumer. And so, and just recently signing up with Quadpay, what have we been around? I'm not sure how long we've been with you guys, but it's been seamless, and I mean, people love it. I mean, we're seeing it dip into, we actually have two different providers, but we're seeing Quadpay, the 4 easy payments just seems to be moving, up versus, the other way that people are spending online. So yeah, it's been great for us.
Great. Yeah, and we saw that with our survey, because a lot of the respondents are saying convenience is top of the list in terms of, the motivations for the types of payment methods they'll be selecting during this holiday season. And close behind that is being able to pay in easy installments. So really it's about convenience and being able to do so in a healthy way. So Tom, just to shift gears a little bit here, how do you see the role of e-commerce in general changing for businesses in the short and the long term?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's probably not going to surprise anybody. It's a bit of a common sense thing, but, at the beginning of COVID, earlier this year, Simplistic did see a big influx of retailers and merchants reaching out to us, whether they didn't have any e-commerce presence at all, or, they had a very limited e-commerce presence and they really wanted to optimize that. I think that is, absolutely something that is going to be a long-term and even permanent impact of COVID is more and more retailers realizing the value of omni-channel, having a presence online. If you are a traditional brick and mortar retailer, there's so much value in having an online presence as well. I think for a lot of retailers who might be traditionally brick and mortar, just the thought of everything that it would take to kind of get an online business up and running can be really daunting, but that's where folks like Simplistic come in and really do make that easy for for our clients. And I think it's another toolbox where personally I'm a bit biased because I am a data insights guy, but I think one of the great things about having an e-commerce business is the ability to learn from what your visitors are doing on your website and how they're shopping.
Sure.
Of course, you do get some data, from kind of traditional retail brick and mortar, but it doesn't compare, ultimately to being able to kind of say, here's the different channels that drive people to our website and the products that are really resonating and, typical visitor journeys and how we can kind of, sell more of this product or highlight, this new range of products. And when you have that e-commerce presence and you have that data that you're collecting, I think it just gives you, a further ability to really constantly be growing and optimizing your business. So I think that's something that a lot of retailers have realized, in COVID. I think the other thing, we've seen with our clients specifically as it relates to the holiday season, a lot of our clients have wanted to kind of start planning for the holidays earlier. I think it's something all of us have gone through this year together and have experienced what a crazy year it's been. I think for sure, personally speaking, March and April, like even May, like there was just a lot of shell shock and, everybody was just trying to wrap their heads around, what was happening with the world and the pandemic. I think that, since then there's been kind of adjusting to this new normal and figuring out, what are the best ways to kind of grapple with this. And so we have seen our clients really start to, consider, all right, the holidays coming up, COVID's still going to be around. We should probably, do a little bit more planning than we've done in previous years. We're going to have to switch it up this year, one way or another. It's not the same as previous years. So we are seeing that with our clients too. And I think that's a big piece of it.
Yeah, it's interesting because when we asked our respondents, they did say that Black Friday was still going to be and Cyber Monday, big holiday shopping periods for them. But overall, I've heard that from other retailers that they're really kind of seeing this elongated shopping period where consumers are doing a lot more planning ahead of time. And Rob, is that something that you're seeing from your consumer base? Or are you seeing a spike in consumers wanting to shop even before Black Friday?
Yeah, it's actually funny you say that, Francesca, because we're getting what we call early shoppers asking for their deals earlier because people want to spend, and it's the race to be first. It seems like all the consumers are looking for that early deal. So yeah, for sure. We started running Black Friday month, the first week of
Wow.
this month, just to capture that. And
Great. And what other tactics have you used to kind of capitalize on that growing interest from consumers? Are you doing more personalization or discounting, or maybe alternatives to
So
discounting?
yeah, we recently signed a contract with another retailer, so we can't discount our products, but we can offer free gifts with purchase.
Hmm.
And that program has been great. So, for instance, I'll give an example. On a $199 purchase price, they're going to get $140 in free gifts, and part of the free gifts
Wow.
is a gift card that's going to bring the shopper back. It's a smaller denomination of a gift card, but they still want to spend that free money. So that after the holiday or even during the holiday, they might come back and buy a second item.
Really interesting. Tom, are you seeing a similar trend with the retailers that you're working with?
Yeah, I think there's, definitely things that retailers are doing. Our clients are kind of trying some new things this year. We have, had a client who's done kind of personalized gift wrapping and kind of a service around that, we've worked with them to make sure that, they can write a note and have some nice, gift wrapping. And I think, that hasn't been something that they've really leaned on so much in the past. Part of that might be tied to, folks are not traveling as much. I mean, personally, just yesterday, I'm not going to get emotional, but I did make the hard decision that I won't be traveling to see my family for the holidays this year. And so, already my mind is shifting to like, I want to, send a nice gift and, kind of have that personal touch. So one of our clients is adding a new personalized gift service this year. I think the other thing too, which really just speaks to the value of retailers adapting to the world that we're living in and kind of consumer attitudes and behaviors. Another one of our clients is leaning into a philanthropic effort this season. So they are, currently partnering with a big nonprofit where they're going to be basically, donating a product for certain purchases that qualify. They donate a product for every product that you buy. And I think that that's something that really, me personally as a consumer, I like that. I think that's a good thing because we're in a crazy time right now. And so
Sure.
those are a couple examples that we've seen from our clients that, stand out to me as maybe something they wouldn't have done in previous years, but just given the climate that we're in right now, thinking of new strategies just to, whether it's, increase average order value, kind of upselling that personalized gift option, or, really just for, brand perception purposes, doing philanthropic efforts.
Yeah, I like that. And it's in line with what you guys are seeing with a gift with purchase. It seems like consumers want to get something for what they normally would do, which to me, even just on this conversation is surprising. And maybe shifting gears a little bit, just looking beyond just this holiday season, and we're looking at the challenges specific to now, what do you anticipate will change in 2021, as we kind of get out of this holiday period and we go through the dreaded months of January and February where sales generally go down? And Rob, I'll hand it over to you.
I mean, it's going to be challenging to say the least, but I do believe that, that the people still are going to buy, because for us, we're a fun company. And so as soon as COVID hit, people were like, I got to have fun at home now. I'm going to have a party in my backyard, with the kids. We're going to pull out the mic on the product and karaoke. So for us, we're hoping that trend continues. I do know when the stimulus checks rolled out this last time, it was crazy. And so we're thinking there's going to be a second round, that comes through, and part of that, people do use that to purchase as well, that, they just don't use that on rent or other bills. A lot of people do buy something that's going to keep their family sane. So they're looking for something. They're looking for sports equipment so the kids can play catch in the backyard. They're looking for, board games, etc., different things to keep, the family entertained because they're not able to go out and travel. So I'm hoping that, the same trend will continue, that people still purchase things that they need to keep their family, quote unquote, sane through, possibly a second lockdown. Who knows what's going to happen? It's very shaky right now to determine what's going to happen.
Yeah, I can empathize with that. I've done more puzzles in the last 3 months than I think I've ever done in my previous life. So, definitely buying more things to do at home to keep you sane. Tom, any thoughts on that? Any, persistent challenges going into 2021?
Yeah, I agree with Rob. Again, I think it's it's interesting, because we do have quite different perspectives. That there's seems to be a lot of overlap where there's no doubt about it that especially the next few months are going to be rough, and I think it's going to be a lot of uncertainty just because of the pandemic. That said, there's some new vaccine developments that do look promising. Not to get too into it, but I think life will, hopefully at least in 2021, it will be different than what this year has been. Kind of speaking at the highest level possible in terms of just life kind of resuming to normal once we kind of put the worst past us with the pandemic. With that said, I think that there's going to be, for retailers specifically and merchants and consumers on the other side of the coin, I think there's going to be a lot of things that have shifted this year that will continue to hold permanently. And I think that's what's going to be really interesting to see. So one of the big things that I've seen that has been super insightful, for me, I've worked closely with one of the largest consumer electronics companies in the world, and at the very beginning of the pandemic, it was a big push of like, how do we adjust our strategy right now? Our sales are tanking. Like, what should we do? And one of the big insights that we found in that research was curbside pickup was being spiking, and it's one of those things that maybe all of us may have tried that for the first time this year because of COVID, or, Rob, you said your parents are shopping online for the first time. I think there's a lot of things that have changed already this year. It's interesting on the note about curbside pickup. I just kind of refreshed some of the data that I pulled earlier in the year around April and May, which did show basically, looking at search interest of how often people are, Googling different topics, curbside pickup, the volume of people Googling that just skyrocketed in March and April. It actually, slowly kind of petered out from, April to June, where there was a lot of interest, but it was kind of slowly declining. And then starting in June, it really leveled off. And it kind of seemed like, okay, maybe people aren't searching for this anymore because they're, they already know how to do it and they're doing it. But for whatever reason, it kind of leveled off a little bit. Just going back to the point about, the data that we just went through from the survey that was from late October, not that long ago. I actually checked this morning, looking at the data that I was originally looking at for curbside pickup. Search interest in curbside pickup just started increasing November 1st again, and it's starting to pick up again. And I think, that speaks a lot to, of course, the cases of COVID rising and all of that, but I think it also speaks to, the holiday shopping season's about to pick up. People are thinking about new ways of shopping, whether it is buy online, pick up at the store, whether there are consumers who are really shopping online for the first time ever this year because they, kind of had to. I also think on the retail side of things, there's going to be a lot learned this year that retailers will continue to lean into in future years. So, whether that is realizing that, we had one of our clients specifically for buy now, pay later. Of course, it's a great strategy to use for folks who do have kind of higher ticket priced items. I think that's pretty intuitive. But one thing I was surprised to hear from one of my colleagues, one of our clients sells beauty products where, the average product is around maybe $30. So, you might not think like, okay, I need to do installment payments for a $30 beauty purchase, but our client actually found that by incorporating buy now, pay later, their customers were more likely to bundle more products together, and they positioned their buy now, pay later offering in a way that was like, hey, if your cart is $75 or over, then you can use installment payments for this. And that actually led to people buying more products, a higher average quantity per purchase. So learnings like that, where I think retailers have kind of had to adjust and adapt to what consumers, how we as consumers are all adjusting our shopping behaviors. I think we're just going to see that really continue next year. And I think that's, really promising.
Yeah, that's a really great point, Tom. And Rob, I'd like to ask you, so from our perspective here at Quadpay, we see that consumers, sometimes the effect of buy now, pay later is the same as discounting. And I know you're not allowed to discount. So for them, when they look at an item, price, the price divided by 4, it just looks more attractive and it has the same impact without, again, having to impact your margins. Would you say that you've had a similar experience now that you have buy now, pay later on your side?
Yeah, I would say that, and coming off of what Tom was saying, like I love the idea of that, a higher ticket item, to be able to, get the financing or get the split pays. Like it does make a difference. We see a lot of consumers, uh, that really rant and rave about, using QuadPay, splitting those payments into 4, and being able to set up your product pages and set up even your homepage with that messaging and showing people exactly what they're going to pay for each payment. The on-screen messaging, it's top notch and it works.
Yeah, great. And then, looking at some of the strategies that you've put into place here, the longer, Black Friday, the longer holiday period, are there any strategies that you plan to continue using even when we come out of COVID? And
Yeah.
I'll give that to Rob first.
Okay. Yeah. So for us, we collab with a lot of larger brands, from Monster Energy, Coca-Cola, to artists such as Snoop Dogg. We're doing something with Jimi Hendrix Estate. So basically, when we collab, we're able to market better because we can pinpoint the markets that we're going to, and we're going to do a lot more of that because we're more than just brand specific now. We're brand specific because we're able to go into target their customers and their fans, and so it makes our marketing dollars go a lot further.
Oh,
So that's
that's a
something
great
we're really
point.
going to pick up on for 2021. Even the pixel sharing now is kind of interesting, between Facebook and other uh, people that we work with. But I think it's all in all being able just to target those key audiences takes our advertising dollars that much further. So we're really going forward that for 2021.
Yeah, that's a great point. And Tom, any thoughts on that and how like these partnership strategies can help stretch the marketing dollars that you're seeing from your partners?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we're vibing, Rob, because I was thinking the same thing of, that's kind of a lot of what we've seen, with our clients as well. As I mentioned, at the beginning of the pandemic, Simplistic got a lot of experience just from retailers reaching out saying, I need to get an online presence, and get up and running kind of as quickly as possible. So, for our design team and our development team, I think there was definitely, a lot of valuable experience that was gained this year, just kind of in, agility and, kind of establishing like what you need to have a successful e-commerce business to get that up and running. But as it relates to what Rob was saying, which I think is really important, and we're starting to see, more now, and I think will be a long-term thing, is the value of once you are up and running, how can you learn from what folks are doing on your website? How can you leverage your website data to optimize your business and to increase your conversion rates and to get more bang for your buck, essentially. So, we do have clients that are relying very heavily on paid media where they're investing a lot on paid search or they're doing paid social. On the flip side of that, we also do have clients that really, most of their traffic is organic, whether that's folks coming directly or organic search. And the way that, myself and my team, for the optimization side of things really engage with those clients is from the perspective of how can we get you the most bang for your buck? So if you are investing in paid media and advertising and you're getting a lot of paid search to your site, let's look at what those folks are doing on your website that come from paid search, how they compare to some of the other visitor types, what we can learn from that, and essentially how you can, make enhancements of user experience, providing that best experience for them so they're more likely to convert. I think those are, a lot of the things that we've seen in terms of our clients, who are all online retailers, where their interest and kind of appetite has been, first and foremost at the beginning of the year, like a big influx. We need to get online, help us out and do that. And, we've been able to do that for many, many businesses. And I think again, everybody now seeing clearly the value of e-commerce. It's going to be more and more things like, for the retail perspective, Francesca, you mentioned this, but this is something that we hear a lot from our clients of what they love about buy now, pay later is the fact that, our partners like Quadpay, do take on, like when that purchase happens, we are guaranteed that money, and Quadpay, does your magic with the installment payments to secure all the, making sure the revenue comes in. But that's something our clients love about using, buy now, pay later partners. So I think the lessons learned, in that regard will definitely continue next year.
Got it. And Rob, this just popped into my head as I was, Tom was sharing a lot of really good insights. Beyond partnerships, what would you say have been the most successful customer acquisition channels? So there's so many popping up out there now, from paid search to TikTok to Facebook to Pinterest. I mean, there's a whole menu of customer acquisition channels, including buy now, pay later, and the growing kind of base of loyal users that we can market, your brand to.
I would say, Facebook, Instagram marketing still seems to be very, very high on the list. We focus, probably 80% of our ad spend just to Facebook and Instagram, and then the rest is spread out between Snapchat, Google, YouTube, etc. But what we're seeing huge returns on right now, still email marketing is still, top of the list.
Okay.
But now, just this past month, we took on SMS marketing to existing customers through segmented list based on what they purchased, what their purchase price was, or how much that they previously had added to the cart. And that's been super successful. And the open rates are incredible because it's going right to your text message. So that's and now we're rolling out something with a buy now, pay later messaging for Black Friday. So we're interested to see what comes back, what the numbers are like on that campaign, because we haven't done one yet for SMS messaging. And buy now, pay later. So
great. And just a quick thought there, because buy now, pay later, there are different iterations of it, and some deferred payment services do require APR fees, which I know, Rob, you work with one provider. How would you say, what's the biggest difference between those that still have APR fees versus those that are traditional installments?
I mean, there are those types of people that, of course, for the 4 easy installments, it's, you're going to pay a little bit more because you're only getting 4 payments. And some people want that 12 months or 24 months to pay for an item, to where they're paying, $11 a month versus paying, $44 or $50 a month. But you have to have decent credit though to get that. And for us, our demographic, seems to be split 50-50 between the two. And so for us, having the two providers works. It'd be nice to have everything under one umbrella. If they didn't qualify here, it goes into here. And, I'm hoping that comes out soon. And that'd be great for us, because it'd be able to push, if somebody got denied for a certain type of financing, it pushes them over into a 4 easy installment plan. You're still able to save that sale, and they don't have to leave the cart, leave your page or anything. So
yeah, no. I think you hit on a great point there, which is just, we want to provide options for the consumer. So whatever that is, you want to make sure that the consumer is able to check out. And Tom, I'd like to hear from you. You mentioned a lot about how consumers wanted to get into the digital space, that maybe those that previously didn't have an online presence. What would you say would be the top 3 recommendations that you would give to someone wanting to build up their digital presence?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think ultimately, probably my first piece of advice was, get in touch with Simplistic, because that's our expertise is really, building and growing e-commerce businesses. So, it does help to work with the experts there. I think the big thing, ultimately for any business, and, this is inclusive of e-commerce, but right now, I think the value of flexibility and agility and knowing your customer and being able to, I think, try new things is, something that a lot of retailers are kind of depending on now more than ever, because there is so much uncertainty. There's a big element of, wanting to understand the shifts in consumer behavior and how folks are shopping. And so, if you're kind of just used to doing things one way and you really only stick to that way of doing things, I think you can miss out on a lot of opportunities. So I think that would probably be my second recommendation is, be open-minded and staying flexible and kind of agile in your approach with your strategies. And then the third, I think, really would be, again, a bit biased here, but definitely, leverage the data and take advantage of everything that you can learn and all the insights that you can gain from having this e-commerce presence and having all the data around what folks are doing on your website. There's so much that can be learned there. The insights that we consult our clients on are always, of course, aligning with them, understanding their business priorities, their objectives, some challenges that they have. And then, we go back, kind of analyze all of the website data, try to understand what folks are doing and, line up with what is this retailer's goal? And, based on the insights we're seeing from the data, how can they optimize their business? So I know that, data and analytics can be kind of something that is like a big mystery for a lot of folks, but I think that would be my last piece of advice, is really not being afraid to leverage the value of the data and insights that can be gained from having an e-commerce business.
I think I hear from both of you. You're both big fans of data, and I couldn't agree more. Rob, any recommendations, any top 3 recommendations, maybe just how consumers retailers are looking to grow their business, not just for the holiday, but in general?
I mean, Tom hit a lot of those right on the head. I do think one thing that I would add is having an advertising budget is a must. I mean, a lot of people, I've seen so many friends that open businesses, they use all their money developing a product, and it's an amazing product. Spent money, building this nice office, nice warehouse, and then when they go to market, they don't have a budget and they drown. So I think having an advertising budget is a huge thing. You have to have it. And everything else that Tom said, I would say, that falls right in line, with what I'm thinking. And I'm thinking also staying outside of the box, because, the saying, if you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got. So here at Bumpboxx, we're always outside the box, thinking of different ways to market. We always have a thing here: nothing's too crazy. That's our saying, nothing's too crazy. So nobody here will ever be thought of as being stupid or crazy with their thoughts, because it was crazy to bring back a boombox. It was a dead industry for so long. So I always tell people that for us, nothing's crazy. So give us your most wild idea. Let's put it on the board and let's all talk about it and see if we can pull it off. If we don't try, we won't know if it worked.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, not too long ago, buy now, pay later was just that. It was something that was completely out of left field. It wasn't really a common thing. And we're seeing, even from our survey today, that that's becoming the fastest growing payment method for consumers. And actually, Tom, I know you mentioned this in our conversation yesterday, but how do you see buy now, pay later becoming more relevant for retailers? Is this going to become just kind of a standard business practice, or is this just more from edgier retailers wanting to offer more options for their consumers?
Yeah, I mean, I see it, becoming really ubiquitous, honestly. And, that's what we've seen from our clients already so far. Like I said, I've spoken to some of my colleagues who have been at Simplistic for years, and I was a bit surprised to hear, none of our clients really kind of turned on buy now, pay later because of COVID. They asked us to do it a couple of years ago. And like you said, Francesca, I think a couple of years ago, that's when it was like this new, like, what is this? And, now it's an essential, part of our clients', toolboxes for their e-commerce strategy. So I see, from the retailer perspective, that it's going to continue, to be something that retailers will see a lot of value in embracing. And I think, what is only going to increase is going to be, the consumer behavior, where there are probably going to be more and more folks who, they see that their favorite websites offer installment payments and maybe just never necessarily, felt the need to try it out. But maybe this holiday season, they are trying to just be a little bit more conscious about what their credit card bill is, or, wanting to kind of spread out those payments so that they can buy gifts for their friends and family. The data from the survey, I think, validates that, the fact that Quadpay users are more likely to, to spend a little bit more this holiday season. So I think there's going to be a growing appetite from consumers, and the retailers who are already, equipped and providing that buy now, pay later solution for their customers are really going to reap the benefits of that.
Yeah, that's great. A pop-up just came up with someone asking a question. It wasn't really so much a question. They said, did I really hear 200% increase, Rob, in the AOV with the buy now, pay later transaction? So I'd love to get your take on that. And one thing too that someone asked is, what's the share of wallet that typically goes into buy now, pay later? Is it something that's just a small portion of your business, or are you seeing a growing trend?
Yeah, no, for us, when we first turned on buy now, pay later, we had so many people that had asked for some sort of a payment plan. And our product was, Facebook had did a study on us, why we were getting so much return on our ad spend versus, other other companies. And it came down to uniqueness of product. So I think the uniqueness of product and the fact that people wanted it, but maybe they couldn't afford to pay for it all up front. When we had all those emails and, we started the rollout campaign for buy now, pay later, yeah, we saw an immediate, probably in the first month, it was a 200% increase in sales. And
Wow.
of course, it did come down and level off because we went through all the people that were waiting for something like that. But we still see tremendous growth. And even now, to answer your question about what part does that play in our revenue, I would say probably about 40% of our revenue right now is from buy now, pay later.
Wow. Yeah, and that's pretty consistent. So here at Quadpay, on average, we expect at least a 10%, but it's not atypical that we go to that 30–40% marker, which is really just speaking to how consumers are wanting to pay with this new type of method. And Tom, I'd love to get your take on that. Is that, why do you think consumers are wanting to use buy now, pay later, and why are they spending more with buy now, pay later?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, at first, I just want to add to that. That's in line, Francesca, what you were saying around the 10% line, that's in line with some of our clients who are really leveraging buy now, pay later. Rob, it really sounds like you've got the perfect recipe for seeing success with buy now, pay later, which that's just awesome for you. I like you said,
we're going to have a conversation later too, because I'd like to share, you'd be kind of shocked on some of it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. One of our clients, I definitely, they might not have the same uniqueness of product as yours. Cause I have shopped around on Bumpboxx's website, Rob, and very, very cool, unique products. But one of our clients who, has a larger ticket product that they sell where their average order value is over $400. They are seeing, roughly 10% of all of their revenue coming from buy now, pay later. So Francesca, to your point, it's not a tiny drop in the bucket. I think that, it does make up a very sizable percent of, the sales. And, that particular client is averaging over $1 million a month in revenue. So, you can really see how it does make a big impact. So, yeah, I think, this is going to be something from the consumer standpoint. It's going to, be a lot of it's going to be dependent on, the retailers and what they're doing. So like I said, one of our clients has gotten creative with their buy now, pay later messaging and kind of their offering where, even though they're selling their products average maybe $30, that client has found that by offering bundles, they actually are seeing consumers buy multiple products and kind of put them together and qualify for that buy now, pay later. So I think, a couple of years ago, and even now, it's not news to anybody that, a free shipping threshold is a very common e-commerce strategy. If you have an order that's $50 or more, you get free shipping. I think that's, the standard now. Maybe you don't see that as much right now with buy now, pay later, where retailers are saying, hey, there's a threshold for you to reach installment payments. If maybe they're selling, lower priced products, but they want to increase that average order value and the number of products purchased per order. So I think, there's going to be this, again, the back and forth of retailers really trying new things, staying flexible and adjusting to what consumers are doing. And then you'll see consumers really, continue to embrace that and use these things more.
Yeah, that's great. I'm just conscious of time here. We've got about 8 minutes. So I do want to save time for questions from our audience. So just pull up all of the questions that have come through here. And this first one, I think I will give this to Rob. And someone from our audience is asking, what is it like to turn on a buy now, pay later service like Quadpay?
Actually, the whole onboarding process is actually pretty simple. Usually, the buy now pay later provider actually does everything and walks you through it. Does all the setup on the back end on Shopify if that's your platform, and you're it's literally, I think within 24 hours you're on and moving, and you'll start seeing the stuff come in, especially if you send out an email blast to everybody, let people know that you've brought buy now pay later uh, product on board. I think you'll start seeing immediate results.
That's great. And Tom, any thoughts on that and what your clients have seen when they deploy? Is it an easy process generally?
Yeah, yep. Echoing what Rob said, it's usually, a very simple process. And, from the retailer perspective, again, it's kind of a win-win. Retailers see that they're able to kind of reach a wider consumer base. Folks who might not typically buy, a more expensive product, but they will do that if they're able to use installment payments. So, they're expanding their consumer base. But they're also, they get that revenue, the retailers do, when that transaction is made. And I think that's one of the great things about the, providers like Quadpay is from the retailer perspective as a merchant, it's kind of a no-brainer. You really do see that value from multiple angles.
Yeah, great. And then another question here, I'm just going to read this out loud because it's a long one, and this is for you, Rob. Knowing that you're all about data, have you ever looked at your consumers, how your consumers differ between choosing one payment option over another that you have on your site? And also, what are the pros of offering two options, and have you seen any cons?
Good question. Good question. Yeah, we do have data that tells us exactly what the two providers are doing. We are seeing a lot of people tend to move now towards the 4 easy installments because there is no interest, which is good. And I think, the last thing we want to do, because there are some buy now pay laters out there that are crazy high interest rates, and the last thing we want to do is offer that product to our consumer because it's just not ethical. You know what I mean? I've seen some stuff out there, and I'm sure you guys have too, where it's like 25%, 24, 26%. And, we refuse to offer anything like that. So, our other provider, the interest rate is not super high, but a lot of people do go to the 4 easy payments because the majority of people can afford the 4 easy payments versus having to wait the 12 months and not pay the interest. So consumers are looking at that because most consumers are smart these days. They know how much that interest is going to cost them, and so if they see that zero interest, sometimes it really sways them to go to the 4 easy installments.
Yeah, and I'm hoping you can comment on this too, Rob, but there is a difference in the application process. That is one of our questions, is like, what is the process for approving consumers? And I'm happy to answer that, but I'd like to get your take on it. Versus those traditional products that do have an APR versus a true installment product, what is the consumer experience like to apply to use the solution?
For both products?
Yes.
For another product, it's a little bit longer for it. It might take them, 2 minutes or so to go through it, but it seems like with Quadpay, I mean, it's their email address, the last 4 of their social, and then a debit card, right?
No social even, just the phone number and their payment method.
So yeah, and it's quick and easy. I personally, what's kind of funny, a lot of people don't know this, is to this day, we're 4 years old. I'm still the person that answers every Instagram message, direct message, and Facebook direct message. I feel it's very important to stay engaged with the consumer, to know what they want, what their frustrations are, what they like. And a lot of people think that's crazy, and people tell me, you still do that? Yeah, I still do. And I probably will never quit. I might need some help at times when, especially around the holidays, but I still want to know what people are thinking, feeling, and I want to feel like they're always going to get answered. So, and we don't even tell them, hey, the CEO's talking to you of the company, but there's been a couple times we've had to pull that CEO card and like, wow, and it blows them away. I think it's important to stay engaged with it because you can only get so much from your teammates to tell you what's going on.
Yeah, I'm smiling because our CEOs like to do the same. So they're always on there. And I think it's a great thing to be able to stay close to your consumers. We've got a few more questions here. This one just came from our audience, or I guess I'll direct this to you, Rob. What happens if they fail the Affirm app? Can they then select Quadpay? And I'm happy to answer that too, but I don't know if you have a response to
And
that.
this goes back to what I was talking about earlier. It'd be nice to have an all-in-one provider. And, you know, I've heard some rumors out there, you know, I don't want to put them out there, but I've heard that something like that could be coming in the future, to where somebody can apply for, you know, something similar to like a firm or subprime, I guess they would call it. And if they fail that, it'll automatically say, hey, but you are approved for our 4 easy payment plan. You know, I think that would be amazing.
Yeah, and you're right. So there are some exciting things coming here from Quadpay, where we'll be expanding our product set. And then just to give a short answer, that yes, the consumer would be able to select Quadpay if they fail with the other method. The consumer would just have to go back to the checkout and select us there.
Yeah.
So another one. Hey, so this is this one requires PS integration. This one, I'm going to read this out loud because this one's a little bit longer. So this audience member is asking that they're asking when they get paid for the payment. So they're saying that they're hesitant to kind of use a buy now, pay later service because they're worried that they won't get their funds for 2 to 4 weeks. So Rob and Tom, any comments on when retailers get paid for buy now, pay later?
I can go ahead and take that as well. I think the very first initial payment takes a little bit longer. I think I want to say like 5 days, but after that, once you're up and running, I think the batches are in like 48 to 72 hours, if I'm not mistaken. Correct, Francesca?
Daily. So we try to get it
Really?
to
Okay.
you the
I know.
following day.
I see. I mean, Monday through Friday, I see a batch come in every single day. So, yeah.
Yeah, we know that that's very important to retailers to get their money right away. So we try to do it either immediately or at the latest 1 day after the transactions. Oh boy, all right. Well, that is our time. So thank you both so much. And thank you for our audience for the great questions that you guys shared. We hope that you found this useful. We're certainly excited going into the holiday season, albeit with all the challenges and kind of unique changes that we've been seeing in our landscape. But please let us know if you have any other follow-up questions. I think there were a couple questions that we didn't get to. We'll certainly address them in the follow-up. And we did do a recording of this session, so we'll be sharing that out as well. But thank you again for joining us today, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.